You've done the maths on this person 100 times. You know the bad days outnumber the good ones. You could list the times they let you down without pausing to think. Your friends have stopped asking because they already know what you're going to say. Every part of your brain that handles logic has filed its report, and the report is unambiguous. And you're still here. Not because you're weak, not because you don't know better. You know better in exhaustive, well-documented detail. That's what makes it so disorienting. The knowing hasn't helped even slightly. And you've noticed the strangest part already, even if you've never said it out loud. The certainty comes and goes. On a bad week, you can see the whole thing with total clarity and you're ready. Then one good evening happens. Not a dramatic one, just an ordinary good evening. And the clarity dissolves so completely that you can't reconstruct what you were even certain about. You've watched yourself do this, possibly several times. It's humiliating in a very specific, very private way. That oscillation is not a character flaw, it's a symptom, and it has a name. Here's the part nobody tells you. The reason you can't leave has almost nothing to do with how good they are. It has to do with how unpredictable they are. And there's a specific mechanism behind it, one that was discovered in a laboratory in the 1950s using pigeons. The mechanism is called intermittent reinforcement, and understanding it will reorganize everything you thought you knew about why you're still in this. Here's the counterintuitive core of it. If someone treats you well every single time, your brain relaxes. It learns the rule, files it away, and stops paying close attention. Reliable kindness is genuinely wonderful to receive and, neurologically speaking, deeply boring. Your brain has solved it, but if someone treats you well unpredictably, warm on Tuesday, cold on Wednesday, extraordinary on Friday for no reason you can identify, your brain refuses to file it. It cannot extract the rule, and a brain that cannot extract the rule does not disengage. It leans in. It starts running the analysis constantly, in the background, at 3 in the morning, in the shower, mid-sentence during a meeting about quarterly targets. You are not addicted to them. You are addicted to the unresolved pattern. This was mapped with uncomfortable precision by B.F. Skinner, whose work on operant conditioning in the 1950s produced one of the most reliable findings in behavioral psychology. Skinner and his colleague Charles Furster tested what happens when a reward arrives on different schedules. When an animal was rewarded every single time it pressed a lever, it pressed steadily, and, crucially, it stopped quickly once the rewards ended. But when the reward arrived on a variable ratio schedule, sometimes after 3 presses, sometimes after 20, with no discernible pattern, the behavior became dramatically more persistent. The animals kept pressing long after the reward stopped entirely. This is the finding that matters for you. Unpredictable reward doesn't just produce more behavior. It produces behavior that is extraordinarily resistant to extinction. It survives the drought. It keeps going when there's nothing left to keep going for. The casino industry understood this immediately and built an entire global business on it. A slot machine that paid out every time would be a vending machine. And nobody would build a windowless room around a vending machine. Helen Fisher's neuroimaging research adds the biological layer. Fisher's fMRI studies of people in the throes of romantic love, and particularly people who had recently been rejected, found heightened activity in the ventral tegmental area and the caudate nucleus. These are dopamine-rich regions associated with reward-seeking and motivation. Notably, they are the same regions that light up in studies of substance craving. Fisher's work suggests that romantic longing, especially frustrated romantic longing, runs on the brain's wanting system rather than its liking system. Wanting and liking are not the same circuit. This is why you can want someone intensely while genuinely not enjoying the experience of being with them. Your brain is not contradicting itself. It's using 2 different systems, and only one of them is being fed. Then there's the Zeigarnik effect, named for the Soviet psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik, who noticed in the 1920s that waiters could recall unpaid orders in fine detail and then forgot them almost immediately after the bill was settled. Her research suggested that incomplete tasks occupy working memory in a way completed ones do not. An unresolved relationship is, cognitively speaking, an unpaid bill. Your mind keeps it open. It refuses to let it go to storage, because as far as it's concerned, the task isn't finished. There's a 4th strand. And it explains why this lands hardest on the people who are least deserving of it. Mary Ainsworth's attachment research, building on John Bowlby's framework, observed something that looks backwards until you understand the mechanism. In her studies of infants and caregivers, children who experienced inconsistent responsiveness, sometimes attentive, sometimes unavailable, with no reliable pattern, did not become detached. They became the opposite. They developed what the literature calls anxious attachment, heightened, almost continuous proximity seeking, difficulty being soothed, and intense distress at separation. The children of reliably unavailable caregivers largely stopped asking. It was the children of unpredictable caregivers who never stopped. That's the same curve as Skinner's lever running on a human being. And it means that if inconsistency was the emotional weather you grew up in, this pattern won't feel like a red flag when you meet it as an adult. It will feel like recognition. It will feel, specifically, like chemistry, because your nervous system already has the software installed and is finally getting to run it. 4 separate lines of research, across 4 separate decades, converging on the same conclusion: the human brain is built to fixate on the incomplete and the unpredictable. Someone who is inconsistent with you isn't giving you less than a kind person would. They're giving you something structurally different and far stickier. Watch how it actually runs. Monday, they're distant, short replies. You reread the last 3 messages looking for what changed. Tuesday, nothing. You draft something and delete it. Wednesday, still nothing, and you've now constructed 4 complete theories about what you did wrong, ranked by plausibility. Thursday evening, out of nowhere, a long message. Warm. Specific. They remembered the thing you mentioned weeks ago. They're sorry they've been distant. Work has been brutal. They've been thinking about you. And the relief that floods through you is enormous. Genuinely bigger than anything you'd feel from a partner who'd simply been kind and present all week. It doesn't feel like a return to normal. It feels like winning. That's the mechanism, fully exposed. The good moment isn't good because of what it contains. It's good because of the 3 days of uncertainty that preceded it. They didn't give you warmth on Thursday. They withdrew it on Monday and then gave it back, and your nervous system registered the return as a jackpot. Reliable partners cannot compete with this. Not because they offer less, but because they never manufacture the deficit that makes the return feel like an event. And here's what happens next, which almost nobody warns you about. The schedule does not hold steady. It thins. In Skinner's lab, once a variable ratio schedule was established, the ratio could be stretched, rewards spaced further and further apart. And the behavior didn't collapse. It persisted. The lever kept getting pressed at a schedule that would never have produced the behavior in the first place. You cannot start a pigeon on a 100-to-1 schedule. You can only get it there gradually, and once you have, it stays. That is what year 3 looks like compared to year 1. The warm Thursday message that used to arrive weekly now arrives monthly, and it still works. In fact, it works better, because the drought before it is longer. You are not imagining that things have got worse while your attachment has got stronger. Those 2 facts are causally connected, and in the direction you'd least like. This is also why the standard advice to wait and see if they change is so quietly destructive. Waiting is not neutral observation. Waiting is the behavior, and every additional month of it stretches the ratio further. Time in this system is not evidence gathering, it is training. Here's what changes everything. Most people leave this pattern trying to answer the wrong question. They spend months, sometimes years, trying to work out whether the person really loves them. As if establishing the answer would release them. It won't. The mechanism doesn't require bad intentions to function. A person can be genuinely fond of you and genuinely inconsistent, and the trap operates at full strength regardless. Intent is not the active ingredient. Unpredictability is, which means the question, do they actually care about me, is not just unanswerable. It's the wrong question, and asking it keeps you in the loop. Because the search itself is the behavior the schedule is reinforcing. The better question, the one that's actually answerable from the outside, is this: how much of my mental life is spent trying to predict this person? That number is measurable. You already know it. And it doesn't require you to determine anybody's true feelings, which was never information you had access to anyway. You've already been trained on this schedule, by the way, and not only in relationships. The pull to refresh gesture on your phone is a variable ratio schedule with a thumb interface. Sometimes there's something. Usually there isn't. The uncertainty is the product. Notification systems that batch and delay rather than deliver instantly are not badly engineered. They are engineered exactly this way, on purpose, using the same research. You are not weak-willed for checking your phone at a red light, and you are not weak-willed for staying. You've been shaped by the most reliable behavioral mechanism ever documented, by an industry that reads the papers, and, in the case of a person, by someone who most likely never read a single one and simply found that inconsistency worked. It's worth sitting with that last part because it dissolves a question people burn years on. Most inconsistent partners are not strategists. There is rarely a plan. There's usually just a person who is avoidant when overwhelmed, generous when guilty, and warm when it costs them nothing, and who has noticed, without ever articulating it, that you always come back. The mechanism doesn't need an architect. It assembles itself out of ordinary human unreliability, plus a nervous system that treats uncertainty as a reason to try harder. Which is why, but they're not a bad person, is both entirely true and entirely beside the point. The schedule doesn't care about character, it only cares about timing. So go back to the maths you've done 100 times. You were running the wrong calculation. You were adding up their good days and their bad days and waiting for the total to tip clearly enough to justify leaving. But the total was never the point. A partner who is wonderful 40% of the time, at unpredictable intervals, will hold you far more tightly than one who is decent 90% of the time on a schedule you can rely on. That's not a flaw in your judgment. That's the mechanism, working precisely as it was documented in 1957. You don't need the total to tip. You don't need them to become clearly bad enough. You don't need a final incident that settles the argument you've been having with yourself. You just need to notice how much of your one and only mind is currently being spent trying to predict somebody who isn't trying to be predictable. That's the number, and you've known it for a while.